What if the greatest adventure ever told was inspired by real events? For nearly 3,000 years, the story of Odysseus has fascinated humanity. Beneath the gods, monsters, and impossible voyages lies a mystery that still challenges historians today. Everything begins with Troy. According to Homer, a devastating war lasted 10 years before ending with the legendary wooden horse. For centuries, many scholars dismissed the entire story as pure mythology, believing Troy itself had never existed. Then archaeology changed everything. In 1873, Heinrich Schliemann uncovered the ruins of an ancient city in modern-day Turkey. Beneath multiple layers of destruction, archaeologists found evidence that a powerful settlement had been destroyed during the Late Bronze Age. Many researchers now identify the site as ancient Troy, although debate continues over which layer it never inspired Homer's epic. If Troy truly existed, another mystery immediately appears. Could Odysseus have been real? No inscription has identified a king named Odysseus. No royal tomb confirms his existence. Yet the palaces, weapons, armor, and cities described by Homer closely resemble discoveries from the Mycenaean civilization, suggesting the poem preserved memories of an authentic ancient world. Perhaps the Odyssey was never completely fictional. Perhaps history slowly transformed into legend through generations of storytellers. If the war was real, who was the mysterious king remembered forever as Odysseus? If Troy was real, then one question becomes impossible to ignore. Was Odysseus merely a legendary hero, or was he inspired by an actual king whose story survived for thousands of years? According to Homer, Odysseus ruled the island of Ithaca, a small kingdom overlooking the Ionian Sea. Unlike Achilles, famous for unmatched strength, Odysseus became legendary because of his intelligence, strategy, and ability to survive impossible situations. But history tells a different story. During the Late Bronze Age, Greece was divided into independent kingdoms ruled by powerful warrior kings. Archaeologists have uncovered massive palaces, royal tombs, weapons, and clay tablets proving these rulers governed complex societies centuries before Homer wrote the Odyssey. No surviving inscription mentions a king named Odysseus. However, many historians believe Homer may have combined memories of several Mycenaean rulers into one unforgettable character. Over generations, real events mixed with oral tradition until history became epic poetry. Even the name Odysseus remains mysterious. Its origin is uncertain, and scholars continue debating whether it belonged to an actual ruler or was created to symbolize endurance and suffering. If Odysseus truly existed, his identity has vanished forever. Yet one mystery remains. What if the greatest weapon of the Trojan War was never a sword, but an idea that changed history forever? The Trojan Horse is one of history's most famous stories. A giant wooden horse, hidden soldiers, and a city destroyed from within. But did it really happen, or was Homer describing something completely different? According to the Odyssey and other ancient traditions, the Greeks built an enormous wooden horse, hid elite warriors inside, and left it outside Troy before pretending to sail away. Believing the war was over, the Trojans pulled the horse into their city. That night, Greek soldiers emerged, opened the gates, and Troy fell forever, and no archaeological discovery has ever confirmed that such a horse existed. Because of this, many historians believe the story may be symbolic rather than literal. Some suggest the horse represented a powerful siege machine. Others think it described a devastating earthquake, since horses were closely associated with Poseidon, the god believed to cause earthquakes. Another theory proposes the horse symbolized deception itself, transforming a brilliant military strategy into an unforgettable legend passed from generation to generation. Whatever truly happened, one fact remains. Troy was destroyed. Whether by a wooden horse, siege engines, betrayal, or another forgotten event, the city eventually disappeared beneath fire and ruins. But Odysseus' greatest challenge did not begin inside Troy. It began the moment he sailed away, and the sea was about to become far more dangerous than the battlefield itself. Odysseus was supposed to return home within weeks. Instead, his journey lasted 10 years. Was it only a legend, or did history hide a much larger disaster across the ancient Mediterranean? Around 1200 BC, powerful kingdoms suddenly collapsed. Great cities were abandoned, trade routes disappeared, and entire civilizations fell within a single generation. Historians still call this event the Late Bronze Age collapse, one of history's greatest mysteries. Ancient Egyptian records describe mysterious invaders known as the Sea Peoples. Their origins remain unknown. Some researchers believe they came from different regions across the Mediterranean, while others suggest they included displaced warriors from collapsing Mycenaean kingdoms. The exact truth remains uncertain. If Odysseus had lived during this period, his voyage home would have crossed seas filled with war, piracy, famine, and destroyed ports. Safe harbors may have vanished, forcing sailors into unfamiliar waters where every island carried new dangers. This chaotic world could explain why Homer's journey became so long and unpredictable. Perhaps monsters were not always monsters. Perhaps they represented real threats remembered through generations of storytelling. Storms became angry gods. Pirates became terrifying creatures. Unknown coastlines became lands of magic. The further Odysseus traveled from home, the harder reality became to separate from legend. And waiting beyond the horizon was a creature that may have been inspired by an astonishing prehistoric discovery. Among all the monsters in the Odyssey, none is more famous than the Cyclops, a giant with a single eye who trapped Odysseus and his men inside a cave. But what if this terrifying creature was inspired by something entirely real? According to Homer, the Cyclops Polyphemus was a massive shepherd living alone on a remote island. After sealing the cave with an enormous boulder, he imprisoned Odysseus and his crew until they escaped through clever deception. No evidence has ever proven that one-eyed giants existed. However, archaeologists discovered fossil skulls of extinct dwarf elephants on several Mediterranean islands. Their large central nasal cavity can easily resemble a giant eye socket to anyone unfamiliar with elephant anatomy. Some historians believe ancient people may have uncovered these unusual fossils and imagined they belonged to enormous one-eyed beings. Others suggest the Cyclops represented isolated shepherd tribes known for hostility toward strangers, later transformed into mythical monsters through centuries of storytelling. Neither theory has been proven, yet both reveal how ordinary discoveries can become extraordinary legends. Perhaps Odysseus never fought a giant. Perhaps he encountered unfamiliar people, strange landscapes, or mysterious fossils that inspired unforgettable stories. If the Cyclops may have had a real origin, what about the enchanting woman who supposedly turned men into animals? According to Homer, one mysterious woman transformed Odysseus' warriors into animals with a single drink. But could the legend of Circe have been inspired by a real person instead of magic? The Odyssey describes Circe as a powerful enchantress living on the island of Aea. She welcomed strangers with food and wine before casting spells that change men into swine. Only Odysseus resisted her power and remained on the island for an entire year. No archaeological evidence has ever confirmed the existence of Circe or her island. However, historians believe the story may preserve memories of unfamiliar cultures encountered by Mycenaean sailors during long voyages across the Mediterranean. Others suggest ancient herbal medicines or naturally occurring plants with hallucinogenic effects could have inspired stories of magical transformations, making frightened travelers believe they had witnessed impossible events. Another theory proposes that Circe represented political influence rather than supernatural power. Powerful women who ruled isolated islands may have appeared mysterious to foreign sailors unfamiliar with their customs and traditions. No explanation has been proven, yet every theory suggests the same possibility. Perhaps Odysseus never encountered a witch. Perhaps he encountered people whose language, like rituals and knowledge, seemed impossible to understand. But an even stranger mystery awaited beyond the next island. Ancient voices were calling across the sea, and sailors believed listening meant certain death. The Sirens are remembered as beautiful creatures whose voices lured sailors towards certain death. But what if their deadly song was never supernatural at all? According to Homer, Odysseus ordered his crew to seal their ears with beeswax before sailing past the Sirens. Curious to hear their mysterious voices, he instructed his men to tie him tightly to the ship's mast and ignore every plea to release him. The plan worked. Odysseus heard the song but survived, while his crew safely crossed the dangerous waters. No evidence has ever suggested mythical sirens existed. Many historians believe the legend was inspired by real coastal hazards. Powerful winds, hidden reefs, crashing waves, and dangerous currents could easily destroy ancient ships. Sailors who disappeared without explanation may have inspired stories about irresistible voices calling from the sea. Others believe the sirens symbolized temptation itself. Their song represented dangerous choices that promised knowledge, wealth, or glory, but ended in disaster. Whatever inspired the legend, the warning remained unforgettable. Some voices should never be followed. Even today, the story continues, reminding people that curiosity without caution can become deadly. But Odysseus faced one final challenge, even more terrifying than the Sirens. Ahead lay a narrow passage where every captain had to choose between two impossible dangers, and there was no perfect escape. Imagine sailing through a narrow channel where danger waits on both sides. Turn one way and face a deadly monster. Turn the other and risk losing your entire ship. Was this terrifying passage inspired by a real place? According to Homer, Odysseus had to sail between Scylla, a creature hidden among towering cliffs, and Charybdis, a massive whirlpool capable of swallowing the sea itself. Escaping one danger meant moving closer to the other. Many historians believe this episode was inspired by the Strait of Messina, the narrow waterway separating Sicily from mainland Italy. Even today, strong currents, changing tides, underwater rocks, and powerful whirlpools make navigation difficult. Ancient sailors, without modern maps or engines, faced far greater risks while crossing these unpredictable waters. Over centuries, real maritime dangers may have transformed into unforgettable monsters. Scylla became the deadly cliffs where ships could be smashed without warning. Charybdis became the terrifying whirlpool that threatened to pull vessels beneath the waves. The geography remained real. The monsters became legendary. Whether Homer described actual hazards or powerful symbols, the lesson never changed. Sometimes every available choice carries danger. Sometimes survival means accepting the smallest loss instead of chasing the impossible, perfect escape. But after surviving every challenge across the sea, Odysseus still faced his greatest test. It was waiting inside his own home. After 20 years of war and wandering, Odysseus finally reached Ithaca. But instead of a hero's welcome, he found strangers living inside his own palace. According to Homer, hundreds of powerful suitors believed Odysseus had died. They occupied his home, consumed his wealth, and competed to marry Queen Penelope, hoping to claim the throne of Ithaca. Odysseus returned in disguise. Disguised as an old beggar, he secretly observed the palace, searching for loyal friends while testing those around him. Even Penelope failed to recognize her husband. Then came the final challenge. Only the true king could string Odysseus' famous bow and fire an arrow through 12 axe heads placed in perfect alignment. Every suitor failed. The mysterious beggar stepped forward. He lifted the bow with ease, drew the string, and completed the impossible shot. His identity was finally revealed. According to Homer, Odysseus reclaimed his palace, defeated the remaining suitors, and restored his kingdom after 20 years away. Whether this dramatic ending happened exactly as described remains impossible to prove. Yet the story survived because it represented something timeless. The long journey home, the hope of returning, the reward for endurance, but one final mystery remains unanswered. How much of the Odyssey belongs to history, and how much belongs forever to legend? After nearly 3,000 years, one question still refuses to disappear. Was Odysseus a real king, or simply the greatest fictional hero ever created? Archaeology has confirmed that Troy existed. It has revealed powerful Mycenaean kingdoms, impressive palaces, ancient weapons, and a civilization that closely matches the world described by Homer. But no discovery has ever proven that Odysseus himself lived. Perhaps he was one remarkable ruler whose memory survived through generations. Perhaps he was inspired by several forgotten kings. Or perhaps he became the perfect hero created from centuries of storytelling. That mystery remains unsolved. Yet the Odyssey continues to inspire millions because it is more than an adventure. It is a story about survival, courage, sacrifice, loyalty, and the endless desire to find our way home despite impossible obstacles. Whether every chapter happened and exactly as written no longer matters, its influence on history, literature, and human imagination is undeniable. Sometimes the greatest legends survive because they preserve deeper truths than simple facts ever could. And perhaps that is why the journey of Odysseus still lives after thousands of years. If you enjoyed this documentary, please subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts below. What do you believe? Was Odysseus a real king or history's greatest legend? The answer may never be known.